tell we didn't have any jump, and you could tell we were just late on everything and giving up lines, not tight on anything. So that's why it looked like that. So, I give the guys credit for trying. I think you just tell we were a little off, sharp, and I think a little fatigued.
Welcome to the Canes Corner podcast. I am Adam Gold. Thank you very much for hanging out with us after a Hurricanes 6-5 loss to the Nashville Predators here at PNC Arena. It was a home game because Carolina had the crowd and sold all the tickets and the popcorn and the adult beverages, but effectively this was a road game for the Hurricanes and their 7th road game in the last 12 days. And that really is why the game looked the way it does, or the way it did. It was all over the place. Really started early. Frankly, Carolina only to allow 1 goal in the first period was pretty good. And they had trouble clearing the puck out of the defensive zone in the first period. That's really what led to the first goal. I thought Antti Raanta, other than the goal that he allowed, and it was not a good goal, but it was also kind of a weird bouncing puck type of a goal. I thought other than that, I thought he was good, and I thought the team was, good enough in a sloppy period, but they had a couple of power play goals. Then the second period happened, and oh my gosh, that was, if you were not necessarily a fan of either team and just happened to stumble upon this game on ESPN Plus, you would have gone, man, hockey's a fun sport. So it's a 6 goals, 3 each way in the period. And the Hurricanes give up the only goal in the third, then lose it in overtime. There were a lot of mistakes made today. As you heard Rod Brindamore talking about it, the Hurricanes were sloppy, and the Hurricanes were probably a little bit tired. I mean, he played in Detroit last night. Who knows what time they got in? You got a game here. Again, 7th game in 12 days, takes its toll. Carolina didn't look all that hot really in any zone. They didn't control the neutral zone. They didn't really get in on the forecheck a lot. There were moments, but it wasn't great. And, you were trying to win a game by scoring 5. They could have. I mean, there were some bad goals, but hey, Kevin Lankinen let in bad goals too. And Nashville had breakdowns on Carolina's goals. It's not a one-way street. Carolina's not the only team that makes mistakes or gets poor goaltending. Nashville just outscored their problems tonight. Carolina could not. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it's for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanna and his crew do a great job. Hope everything is well out there in Hurricane Land, no matter where you are, whether you are in Raleigh or, Dublin, Alaska, Melbourne, Perth, Adelaide, wherever you are. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. And if you don't mind, caress the like and subscribe button and tell all your friends, because that would be fun. All right. We'll start with the big shiny object. Antti Raanta didn't play well. 6 goals on 30 shots. Not good. 80% save percentage, and somehow his .860 save percentage will get lower. And he has not had a good year. And frankly, Carolina's goaltending is what it is. And I know how everybody got really crazy and excited, and you should, based on the last 2 games, which were Carolina wins with Pyotr Kochetkov in net. But Kochetkov only played 2 good games. The first one much better than the second one. And his save percentage is still sub 90% too. Carolina's got the worst goaltending in the league, and Raanta has been a sizable chunk of that. And the other guy has also been a sizable chunk of that. And they might have a goaltending problem. And a problem to the point where it will keep them out of the playoffs. Is Raanta the problem that will keep them out of the playoffs? Yeah, can. And I know we love Kochetkov. We love his future. I'm still not sold on his present. So, I mean, best case scenario for Carolina is that when Kochetkov starts on Sunday against the Capitals, he looks great and can string together a couple of wins. So that would be the best case scenario. But I don't know that it's the most likely scenario. So we'll see what happens on Sunday. I think right now we understand that Ranta's not it. He's certainly not the answer to play a lot. So this was always going to go this way if something happened to Freddie. Because you can't have Raanta and Kochetkov even split the time. That's not, you can't do that. Every time you run Raanta out there enough, he's going to break down physically. Right now, he's not going to be out there enough to break down physically. He's simply going to be your backup, and you're hoping that Kochetkov is the guy. So, I mean, just going through the goals. The first goal, I didn't hate the first goal as much as others did. It's not a great goal. You want to get a save on that because there wasn't much on it. But it was a bouncing puck, and it went. I can't even tell if I was told it went over Ranta's pad. I think it went under, but it was clearly, Ranta's stick is doing something. I have no idea what his stick was doing. You got to get your paddle on the ice. I never played goal, and I know that, and Raanta knows that too. But that's what happens when you're struggling. You're all sorts of out of whack. So the first goal is not good. The second goal, the Yossi wraparound goal, that's a bad goal to allow. Not only does Raanta not get back to cover the post or even get close to covering the post, but Jesper Fast in front has his stick held by Gustav Nyquist, and he couldn't even get over to stop Yossi from an easy wraparound put away. And it's a missed call by the official, but it is what it is. Anyway, that was the goal that tied it at 2. The third Nashville goal is a power play goal that Ryan O'Reilly scored on a rebound right on top of the crease. It's a power play that shouldn't have even been a power play. Seth Jarvis, I mean, does he bump Kevin Lankinen? Yep, he does. Was he pushed into Kevin Lankinen? Yep, he was. Was it outside the crease? Yes, it was. It's not a call for me, but they called it, so you got to kill the penalty, and Carolina couldn't. So that made it 4-3. And then the Tyson Barrie goal in transition. And this is where Carolina, I thought, was really poor tonight. There just wasn't enough. I'm trying to think of the word because I can't, because I've been doing 7 games in the last 12 days too, although not on the road. There just wasn't enough purpose with the way, not enough conviction with the way Carolina passed the puck in the offensive zone tonight. So that's a play that started in the offensive zone transition. I don't know how it became such a 2-on-1, really all the way. Dmitry Orlov caught all the way up the ice. Jalen Chatfield tried to play both players, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi didn't have enough gas in the tank to get all the way back. And Tyson Barrie beats Antti Raanta short side. I mean, to me, that's a goal you got to have. First one, maybe. Second one, the wraparound for sure. The one that made it 5-4, the Barrie goal. Yeah. I mean, that's just not a good one. The fifth goal, the Lausanne goal, that's bad defense by Carolina. Again, starts in the offensive end. Necas with not a terrible pass, but a soft pass. It was bad execution. I don't think it was a bad idea. Aho didn't really play it well, kind of waved at it. And now you've got 2 forwards caught up the ice, and Carolina, Slavin and Pesce are on the ice together there. And everybody just skating back and forth, chasing the puck. And ultimately, it was Lausanne that beat Raanta for a 5-5 tie. To that point, I thought Raanta was good in the period, but the goal is the goal, and you're only as good as the goals you allow. So while we can acknowledge that Raanta made some good saves tonight, the truth is that he allowed at least 2, maybe 3 goals in regulation that he shouldn't have. And then the overtime goal, you got to stop. You got to stop. It didn't go bar down. It went past his glove. It looked like it hit off his arm and caromed up. So, I mean, you got to stop that goal. But he wasn't the only player at fault there. And by the way, I'm trying to think which of the goals. Was it the wraparound goal? The Roman Josi wraparound goal? Yes. Stahl, Martinook, and Fost on the ice. Not only did Fost get his stick held, but Jordan Stahl kind of got screened off the play by Jordan Martinook. It was one of those games. Carolina looked like they didn't have a lot of gas, and Raanta, who didn't play the last 2 games, couldn't help him out, couldn't bail him out, and couldn't pick up a save, couldn't get a good save, and let in some soft goals. But then, so you can't allow that overtime goal. But the real problem was where it started. Jordan Stahl won the faceoff. Brent Burns was first to the puck, but he didn't get it. Just kind of reached out, one hand on his stick, and he couldn't gather the puck in. So I think it was Ryan O'Reilly, got it. Nashville cycled it back behind their own net. Roman Josi stayed there, made a sandwich for a while, and then eventually started up the ice. And it was just kind of an aerial flip to Forsberg, who pawed it down, almost lost control of the puck, but he didn't. And then Stahl and Burns are there. Burns has Forsberg. Stahl had somebody coming on the right side. I think it was O'Reilly. And Stahl had to pay attention there. And Burns couldn't handle Forsberg. Forsberg kind of deked to the left, brought it to the middle, just let it go from basically above, between the circles. And it went right over Ranta's glove. His glove wasn't high. His glove was, waist high. And that's that. And you knew based on the way both goalies were playing that this was likely to be a first possession game. Likely. Not guaranteed, but likely to be a first possession game. So, at the very least, 3 of the 6 goals allowed by Raanta tonight, he wants back. I mean, that number might be 4, might be 5. But I think if we say 3, I think that's a fairly accurate number. Carolina scored 5 goals. You score 5 goals, you should win a game. And they didn't. And yes, Carolina's got a goaltending problem. Even if Kochetkov is good, they have a goaltending problem. I think that's a fair statement too. Let's talk about a couple of other things. First of all, power play looked good tonight. 2 full power plays they had looked good. First power play didn't look awesome, but it generated some chances, and then you got the goal. Great shot from Drury, and a great tip from Noesen. I like Jack Drury, by the way. Drury is playing so much better over the last month, and it started before the offensive production started coming. And there was a little flip in the lines tonight. Rod Brindamore in the second period put Jack Drury between Teuvo Teravainen and Martin Necas, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi with Michael Bunting and whoever the other forward was. And again, they rotated a bunch in there. Sometimes it was Jarvis, sometimes it was Noesen, sometimes it was Necas, sometimes it was Teravainen. So, I mean, that's a good line. That should be a good line. If you have Bunting, Kotkaniemi, and whatever, any one of those 4 forwards, that's a good line. But it was interesting that Drury got bumped up to play with Necas and Teravainen. Now, speaking of Necas and Teravainen, I'll start with Teuvo first. He was no good tonight. I thought Teuvo had a rough go. Teuvo had a hard time clearing the defensive zone in the first period, a really hard time. And he also had a hard time handling the puck, and his decision-making was not great. I mean, Carolina sometimes Carolina gets a little pass happy, Sometimes it's okay to make the extra pass, but man, if there's nothing there, you have to either shoot it or, live to fight another day, bring it back to the blue line and set something up, because they overpassed the puck out of scoring opportunities, including a couple by Teuvo Teravainen tonight. So it wasn't a great game from him. So real quick, back to Jack Drury and Jesperi Kotkaniemi, because they flipped, and you can number the lines all you want, but it doesn't seem to me like that last line is too bad when you've got essentially two top six forwards surrounding, at this point, it was Jesperi Kotkaniemi. But we'll see if Rod kind of stays with that. I'm not saying he will, because the way Rod generally operates for something like this that will be looked at as a demotion, I think that Rod is kind of well within his rights. But I also think he's going to give Jesperi maybe another game, maybe the Washington game, before he decides, you know what? I think Jack has earned more ice. I also think that it's very possible that against the Capitals, we will go back to 12 forwards and 6 defensemen. Just have a hunch here. I've not gotten any intel on that. Rod doesn't like 11-7. He likes having Tony on the ice. And, I mean, it's very possible that, because there were some game time decisions today, it's very possible that Tony plays and somebody else sits. It wouldn't be a punishment set. It would be somebody who's banged up. But I do think they'll go back to 12-6. But I will be interested to see if Drury gets a run with a top 6 line, because Jack has earned it. Jack has been a very good player, and he was one of my 3 stars tonight. I had Jack Drury, 3rd star, Michael Bunting, 2nd star, Steph Noesen, the 1st star. I thought Noesen was an impactful player all night. What you needed in a game like this, when it was all helter-skelter, you needed the offense from Seth Jarvis and Sebastian Aho. You needed that tonight. And Carolina didn't really get it. I mean, they got a goal and an assist from Aho had the goal, Jarvis had the assist. But when the game is end-to-end like this, yeah, you just need more out of those guys. Necas had a goal, which is a great pass by Alexander Carrier. And yes, he doesn't play for Carolina. That was just a very, very poor defensive play and a turnover that led right to a goal. And remember, the other team screws up too. Carolina's not the only team screwing up here. It was a very sloppy performance, really, from both teams. And I'm not saying that the better goalie won, because I don't think Kevin Lankinen was that good either. But he made fewer mistakes than Antti Raanta did. Michael Bunting has been struggling, but Michael Bunting played pretty well tonight. So the conversation about, was Michael Bunting a miss in free agency? It's going to have to wait a little while anyway, but I thought Bunting played very well tonight. I wasn't in love with Dmitry Orlov tonight. I wasn't in love with Brent Burns tonight. So Carolina, it's funny, real quick about Burns. I really expected year 2 of the experience playing with Jacob Slavin. I really expected year 2 to be an offensive explosion for Burns, because I remember the second year that Dougie Hamilton was here and he played with Slavin for the second straight year. And I remember how impactful Hamilton was offensively, because he knew that Slavin always had his back. We haven't seen the next step forward from Brent Burns yet offensively. Not even talking about his defense, which is, I mean, it's mostly okay. I didn't think it was great tonight. He made a couple of good plays, but I didn't think it was great tonight. But I think in the grand scheme of things, Brent Burns is, he's an even player. And it's like, he's not a plus defensively. I don't think he's a tremendous minus, but he wasn't really a plus tonight. He was just tonight. And they needed more in a game that became just an absolute gong show. But in the grand scheme of things, the Hurricanes managed to get a point out of a game where, in terms of physically, they were at a disadvantage. Again, Nashville was here last night. They were already hanging out, eating dinner, watching, I don't know, something on Netflix. And the Hurricanes were flying back from Detroit. The game in Detroit was classic Hurricanes. The game here, not classic Hurricanes. Too many soft goals, and they couldn't bail themselves out. But all right, so real quick to go through some of. There's a lot of comments here, and we thank you very much for commenting. I guess we're talking about goaltending. Dr. Richard. Oh, we have a doctor. He's the podcast physician. Please be the calming voice after this tough loss. I would have loved to see our only rested player from last night steal one for us. Yeah, I agree. I would have liked to have seen Antti Raanta play better tonight. If he plays better, Carolina wins. We can say the same thing about Nashville's goalie. It was a battle of backups today. It wasn't UC Saros that Carolina put 5 past. It was Kevin Lankinen. And yes, I would have liked to have seen Raanta play better. He didn't have to steal it. He honestly didn't. If he just makes the routine saves, because I thought the overtime goal was a routine save. I don't know about routine, and I don't know if the Barry goal is a bad goal, but it's a stoppable goal. And Carolina needed a save. They needed saves tonight. They didn't get them, but they were terrible defensively. So two things can be true at the same time. Antti Raanta could be not good enough, which I think 30 games into the season, I'm pretty sure he's not good enough. And the Hurricanes could have played a poor hockey game. Both of those things can be true at the same time. Ultimately, it does come down, and I said it the other day, when Kochetkov gave up the second and third goals in the loss to Calgary. There's a difference between a bad goal and allowing and not getting a save. And I think right now Carolina, or at least Raanta, is more in those lines. Now, the last 2 games, Kochetkov has given Carolina, in my opinion, a 9 out of 10 in Ottawa and a 7 out of 10 in Detroit. But the 7 out of 10 is fine if you're going to play the way Carolina played. Tonight, the way this game was played, in order to win, Carolina was going to need a 9 out of 10. And they got about a 4 out of 10. Actually, maybe they might not have needed a 9, but they might have needed a 7. But they got a 4. And so that is a problem for Carolina. Goaltending has been a problem. So just to kind of recap my quick thoughts here. I think, barring another injury or somebody that needs a day, I think we'll see 12-6. I think you'll see Tony DeAngelo draw out. And I think you'll see Brendan Lemieux back in the lineup. Especially against a team like Washington. I think you're going to need a little bit more of a physical element. Here's the other thing I want to say real quick about Michael Bunting. Michael Bunting is a very good player. He had 26 goals each year, the last 2 with Detroit, playing with Austin Matthews and whoever was on the other side, which rotated. But for the most part, Bunting was playing up with Austin Matthews, and whether it was Marner or Tavares or Nylander, is usually, I guess, Nylander. I mean, that was a line. And it was very effective. And Bunting is should be an agitating player. Not necessarily it's not like not a tough guy. He's not trying to get under your skin. But he's supposed to play in a way that kind of stirs the pot. We haven't seen that Michael Bunting at all. Now, I thought Michael was good tonight. I think he had 2 assists on the night. Either way, I thought he was a good player tonight. So maybe this is not the right day to say, see, but they haven't gotten great Bunting this year. And you know me, I hate Bunting. Not Michael Bunting, just Bunting in general in baseball. But they need to get a better version of Michael Bunting. They absolutely do. Because it's too easy to put him on a 4th line right now because he's not very difficult to play against. Let's see if we can get a couple of things. So Ryan, am I crazy for thinking Jack Drury has been our second best center for the past 5 games? If we take the 5 games as a whole, I would say he was the best center over the last 5 games. I think Sebastian Aho had higher moments in Ottawa. I think Jordan Staal was dominant in Detroit. But, yeah, taken as a bigger picture, everything that happened over the road trip plus tonight, yeah, Jack Drury's been Carolina's best center, not just their second best center. And as I mentioned earlier, if I were Rod Brindamore, it would be a consideration to have Drury play up in the lineup and not just be a 4th line guy. But I do think that we will see 4 different lines, and I don't think you'll see 11-7 on Sunday against the Capitals. I think that's about it on a Friday night. Look, Hurricanes got a point. They didn't play well. They were not good tonight. The goaltending wasn't good tonight. They got a point. It's not ideal, but you didn't get zip. So at least they got 1. Now they come back on Sunday against the Caps and try to get 2. Next 2 games, Capitals, bigger team, physical team. This will be a good test for Kochetkov's playing against Alexander Ovechkin. Woof. And then Tuesday against the Vegas Golden Knights, best team in hockey, in my opinion. So that's where Carolina is right now. Hopefully it'll be okay. Other than that, we will talk to you on Sunday after the Hurricanes and the Washington Capitals. I'm Adam Gold. I appreciate everybody's time joining us here on the Canes Corner podcast on YouTube. Do us a favor. Do me a favor. Subscribe, like, do what you can to spread the word. Send this out to the masses. Tell your friends about it. And we'll see you Sunday after the Canes and the Caps. Good night.